Exactly.
Because that was like, and I think, working my first job out of grad school, and I had been doing this like as a high school coach and stuff about trying to be as organized as possible, but, being pushed outside that comfort zone in a big way, working at VCU as a director of player personnel and putting together itineraries, thinking about how do we move 23 people in a travel party on planes, buses, hotels, meals, everything to make sure we're being as efficient as we can be and making sure that like the main thing stays the main thing.
Right.
And then taking that high level experience to the high school and being like, all right, how do I adapt this to my group of, staying organized, communicating, doing all of those things so that none of that stuff can get in the way and we can't use it as an excuse as to why we're not doing better, because this is just how we do it here, and I would rather over communicate than under communicate, and I'd rather ensure that everybody's on the same page so we can't say that was a distraction. But I think that's not something that anybody really talks about in a clinic or in a group, where like you
Right.
steal an idea here and there, but really it's like comes from your experience in like what worked, but nobody really shares all of that stuff.
You kind of just have to go through and make your mistakes and kind of learn. Because like when I was a GA, I didn't know how to do anything. I mean, but I think that too comes back to the human component of redefining character. What are my habits?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to send out recruiting information to recruits. I didn't know how to set up camp. I didn't know how to send DVD, because this was back before, we were still mailing DVDs to coaches and game swap and stuff. I didn't know how to do any of those things, but I knew how to show up on time, and I knew how to ask questions, and I knew how to at least try, and be aware of what was going on. And so knowing that I could at least stack that deck in my favor, and if I made my mistakes, learn from them and not make that same mistake again. So you're really getting by not on what you're getting by on your character or your repeatable habits of who you are as a person. And that's what we looked for when we would try to go hire or find managers. Like we were just cycling through managers like crazy. Guys would show up, get a free t-shirt, go to a practice, and like we'd never hear from them again. And it's like, it came down to like, we were trying to look for guys that like played in high school, or guys that like were interested in the game because we thought that's what was going to make them come back. But it was really about trying to find people with character, finding people who, if we had a 4:00 practice, you had to be there at 2:30, or if we had an 8:00 a.m. practice, you're there at 5:30, 6:00. When practice is over with, you're making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the locker room, or you're folding towels. Like your job is never really done. Like the game is over with. It's not time to go to Chili's and go eat. We got to pull all the scout down off the wall, and we got to rewrite and put the new scout up. Like your knowledge of the game or your love of the game didn't really have anything to do with that. It was probably like 1%.
Right. That whole thing is like 1%. And when like me being a manager in college, like I thought that's what it was about. And that was probably the hardest I've ever worked, was doing that stuff.
No doubt.
And then managing the managers when I was at VCU, like we had 3 managers. They all loved basketball, but none of them wanted to coach or anything. They just wanted to be around the team. And they were hardworking, three really, really hardworking kids who they were the lifeblood of everything, like everything. And me being right there alongside them, like making the little snack bags before we went on a road trip the night before, taking 2 of them to Sam's Club so we could just load all the stuff in the car and unload it, washing the laundry with them, teaching them how to properly sanitize the water bottles. No one talks about that stuff. Like everybody's like, oh yeah, I paid my dues, I did it. Well, no, how did you do it?
Right.
What do you look for?
Were you good at
it? Right. Like if I was hiring somebody tomorrow, student athletes, sure, I would look at that. But I would look for somebody who's been a manager and done it at a really, really good, like at a high level. Not being like a D1 manager. I don't care about the level at which they did it. I want to know, did they do it at a high level? Like, how did they do what they did? And did they do that at the highest level possible?